Hi,
All right, hello
everyone.
everybody.
Thanks for joining us today. All right. So today's webinar is about how Microsoft Copilot actually shows up in your day-to-day work, not future vision or AI hype, and not a sales pitch. As questions come up, please feel free to drop them in the Q&A at any point, and we'll make sure to leave some time at the end of the meeting to go through them. All right, so on to the next slide. This session is for teams who live in Outlook, Teams, Word, and PowerPoint, and are curious about how Copilot fits into the work that's already happening. What it is not, it's no big data projects, no rebuilds, no requirement to be AI mature. We'll walk through 3 everyday apps, show real examples, and then talk briefly about where teams typically start if they want to try this without a big commitment. So first, for some quick introductions, I am Tara Ramakers, an account executive with BCS. I joined just last month, actually, and I have the pleasure of introducing one of our kick-ass consultants, Joel Trinidad, who will be running you through our demos.
Yes, thank you, Tara. I'm Joel Trinidad. I've been a consultant here for a few years at BCS, and lately I've had the chance to really play around more with Copilot's, pretty awesome upgraded features. So I'm excited to share that with all y'all here. All right, and then kind of looking at 365 Copilot. And kind of at its core, Copilot is just AI put directly into 365. So it's inside the tools that you already know and that you're already familiar with. The nice thing about Copilot is that you don't have to go necessarily into an entire separate application or a web browser or anything like that to be able to get the most use out of it. You can use Copilot directly in your Outlook application, in your Teams application, in Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and pretty much Microsoft's entire suite of business applications, right? It's kind of nice because you're not necessarily leaving those applications to go and do AI tasks. It works in context inside your emails, with your meetings, especially your recorded Teams meetings, documents, files, and SharePoint. Essentially wherever you need it, Copilot's going to be able to, help you out in those areas. And that's kind of why adoption looks different here than with its standalone tools. There's less friction because the work is already there. Things are already integrated in a really great, unique way. Right, so the first application that I wanted to show is Copilot with Outlook. Copilot with Outlook helps in a lot of different ways, right? It helps you get to a solid first draft faster than you normally would be able to. Helps you summarize long email threads. Sometimes if you work on if you have a client-facing role, you can have a lot of different email threads with the same person, and they all relate to different topics. And sometimes you want to go back and track specific details from specific threads. It can be difficult to do that or time-consuming to do that because you got to go through your entire inbox, look through everything manually, but Copilot has the ability to summarize those for you and gather those specific details if you ask it to. Right, and kind of along those lines, you can find attachments, you can find, essentially anything that you need in your emails without doing an intense amount of digging. Right, and because of that, 64% of people say that Copilot helps them spend less time processing emails. I've personally found a similar sort of thing where if I ever need to look through email threads or if I ever, would traditionally spend a lot of time digging through different things in my inbox to find specific details. I find that Copilot really helps with that process because you can search stuff up and it'll give you just details right out the gate. And then 18% of people say that emails written with Copilot are more clear, more concise. And sometimes, I've drafted emails with Copilot and there's things that I want to edit, but it makes it really easy because Copilot kind of gives me my first draft. It gives me something to work off of that I can improve on and that I will be able to send out to clients or to people that really matter in the business. Right, so I'm going to show just a quick presentation, quick demo of what Copilot can do in your Outlook application itself, right? So in this case, I'm kind of a software developer, and not every end user is going to be a software developer, but I have a lot of different, client emails that come in. I have different bug requests, people that ask me questions about what's going on with the software, right? So let's say I have one specific person that I'm trying to find, or I'm trying to find different, software bugs that were assigned to me. Rather than going through again my inbox and doing all that myself, I can ask Copilot to do that. And in just a few seconds, Copilot's really giving me an overview of what's been assigned to me, who, put in those requests, what those requests are about. It's giving me details about that I can work off of. Right, and it's all pretty usable stuff. And when I click into certain things, Copilot's going to be able to help me do that. But let's say I have one specific thread that I want to send a response to the person. I can draft emails with Copilot as well. So in this case, I'm going to ask Copilot to respond to this email in a polite way. Right, so I'm pulling up a thread and I'm asking Copilot to respond to it, not just to create a draft, but I'm giving it the tone that I want it to have as well, which is pretty helpful. And you can
Yeah.
see it's built out the shell of that email, who I'm sending it to, which is the person that submitted the request. It's giving me a subject line as well that's going to be usable and relevant over here. And then in the actual body, there's nothing yet, but that's because we can just go ahead and type in a rough outline of what we want to say into Copilot's little prompt box over here. So in this case, we just want to give a quick follow-up email. So we wanted to be something along the lines of, thank you for submitting this bug report, right? When we do that, Copilot's going to be able to really get to work. It's going to take that, polite sort of tone that we want. It's going to generate something, right? This one's a few paragraphs, so we can ask it to retry a message if we want to get the phrasing a little bit differently. We're going to have other options as well if we want to make it longer, if we want to make it shorter. In this case, it's just kind of a follow-up message. So we want to
Mhm.
make it a little bit shorter, right? And that went from 4 to 3 paragraphs. Now we can go from 3 paragraphs all the way down to one. So rather than doing all of that work ourselves, Copilot's able to just quickly draft things. And it saves those previous drafts as well. If I want to go back to something a little bit longer, I have the ability and the freedom to do that. Copilot saves what it's already written. I could even do things like change the tone. I can make it more direct, casual, formal. If I'm feeling artistic, I can write out the response to be like a poem, if you're in that
Love
sort of mood. Yeah.
it.
So really, there's a lot of flexibility with Copilot, especially in drafting these emails. You can tell it how you want to sound. You can tell how long you want to be. So in this case, we'll just discard that example one. But that was an example of me just responding to a thread that already exists. Sometimes you might want to follow up with emails as well, right? And you can use Copilot again to draft those email responses. So in this case, I'm going to ask it to generate a new email asking another teammate of mine for the status of a project that we've been working on, right? And then it's going to take a little bit of time to think, but again, similarly, Copilot's going to be able to draft, that response that I need, right? I'm not really giving it a whole lot of context. I'm just giving it a brief, overview of what I want it to say. But Copilot's going to be able to make that email. It's going to be able to generate something usable for me, right? And I'm always free to change it around. I'm always free to edit the text itself manually myself if I don't want to have Copilot do it. But I can have Copilot auto rewrite it. I can, again, make it longer, make it shorter, change the tone. I have the freedom to do all of that stuff, and Copilot's kind of empowering us to be able to do that. So I found it to be pretty useful. That was
Mhm.
Copilot in Outlook. Now I want to take a quick look at, D365 Copilot for Teams. Also, you can find a lot of different uses for Copilot here, right? You have meeting recaps. You can look at your action items. If you talked about something in a meeting or you talked about a specific action item in a team chat with another team member, rather than kind of trying to figure out what channel it's in or what team, we talked about this subject in, you can ask Copilot to find that for you. Copilot's going to be able to go through your records and find those action items for you, or even decisions if anything fell through the cracks. Copilot can help patch those up and find the details that you need.
Yeah,
84%. Sorry, go ahead,
it's
Sarah.
really cool because now you don't have to find a note taker and you don't
Yeah,
have to
exactly.
schedule a follow-up meeting about a meeting because you forgot about something or wasn't jotted down correctly. So I think that's really
Exactly.
awesome.
At the end of the day, it really is like your Copilot, right?
Hmm.
You do the driving, but Copilot helps a lot with your everyday tasks.
Sure.
Yeah, but so 84% of people say Copilot makes it easier to take action after a meeting. I've definitely found that to be the case, especially with my recorded Teams meetings. You're going to see in just a little bit, but Copilot's got the ability, a powerful ability, really, to look through those and find just useful insights from those meetings. And people find that they're twice as productive when using Copilot to summarize those meetings. I've found a similar thing because rather than scrubbing through those long, Teams recordings, trying to find specific details on something. Copilot has the ability to transcribe that, look through the transcript, and then tell me exactly, what details I need. right? So in this example, let's say I've got a pretty busy calendar, right? And I had this specific meeting. If we go into the meeting notes, I can see that there's a recap section over here. I can just click into that. That takes me right to the meeting recording. And when I have Copilot enabled, I've got all of these different items over here. I can see, for example, when I was mentioned throughout the meeting, different times when people said my name, they might be talking about things that are relevant to me after the meeting as well. So it might be helpful to find those. I can see, the meeting recording broken down into chapters based on what we talked about. And if I go into my little Copilot window to the side, I can even ask Copilot to give me, specific items, specific details about what we talked about. Let's say somebody in my team talked about a budget. I can ask it, what did Will say about the budget? And then Copilot's going to be able to give me an exact response. So overall, this one's pretty quick. It's pretty, I think, intuitive to see where rather than having to go through and watch a meeting yourself, or rather than having to, spend half of your attention on writing notes down during a meeting, you can simply click record, go through the meeting as you would like. And then when that's over and it's recorded, Copilot's going to be able to have a lot of insight that you need. It's going to be able to grab and pick up all those details for you.
Yeah. Summarize and make it more efficient for you. It's perfect.
Exactly, exactly. It really reduces that post-meeting fatigue and follow-up guesswork. All those sorts of things are
Mhm.
really patched over when you have Copilot on your side. But yeah, those teams is pretty useful. We're gonna look at Copilot for Word and PowerPoints. A little bit of a tag team duo here. Copilot in Word helps a lot with turning rough ideas into structure. Sometimes, if you want to generate a proposal or something like that, you can go through and kind of work out those details of what you want to write or what you want to propose in Copilot and then turn that into a Word document. You can repurpose content and it helps you avoid that blank page paralysis of, figuring out how to start, where to start, Copilot will help you generate something that you can work off of, that you can build off of. Again, it doesn't need to be perfect at the first pass, but Copilot is really able to help you get the ball moving with these sorts of things.
Yeah, get the
85% of people
wheels
say,
turning. You
yeah,
gotta
exactly, get the
start
wheels
somewhere
turning.
sometimes.
It does help to have kind of an assistant at your side that's
Mhm.
that's kind of giving you ideas, giving you suggestions, writing up first passes of
Sure.
things for you to take a look at, right? But yeah, you can see a lot of people think that Copilot reduces the effort to complete their tasks because they kind of have that assistant by their side. 41% of people say it's faster getting to a first draft with Copilot, and I've again found similar sort of results with myself, in my own work. But I want to take a look at one last thing of what Copilot does here with Word, kind of moving in congruence with PowerPoint, right? So in this case, I have a proposal that I wanted to make for a new project, right? We're gonna call it a solar powered baby stroller, right? Our solar stroller proposal is what I want to build out. I don't really have to give Copilot a ton of different things on what I want, and yet it's able to give me an entire proposal, right? It's giving me a timeline, a budget, different stakeholders that might be involved in this, different team members that I may have to collaborate on it. It's giving me a suggested project scope, right? So in this case, I'm just starting off with an idea. Copilot is really doing a lot of the heavy lifting and helping me build out that idea, creating suggestions, right? I can change it around, or if I think it's good, I can ask Copilot to just create a Word document of the proposal with all of the details that it's come up with here. So it'll take a little bit of time to think, but when it does that, it's going to give me a link that I can just click. I can click on it. I can download the report, or not the report, but the Word document that it's created. Then when that's done, I get to open it up and see all the details that I had with Copilot, in discussion already. It's going to give me those details here in a Word document, right? If I wanted to make a PowerPoint presentation on it, I wanted to present it to maybe stakeholders, I could do that as well. So I'm just going to save it here and then go ahead and do that. I'm going to that's going to upload it into my SharePoint site. When it's uploaded into SharePoint, I'm going to be able to get a link for that. And then now I want to move into PowerPoint. I want to build my presentation on that Word proposal for the solar powered baby stroller. I'm going to be able to click into PowerPoint. I choose, whatever template that I want to build it with. I'm going to create the presentation, right? And again, I'm doing all this in PowerPoint. I'm able to generate this proposal. I'm able to link my SharePoint file of the Word document in PowerPoint over here. Then Copilot's going to be able to completely work from there. It's going to give me a little overview of what the slides are going to be like and how presentation is going to be formatted. If that all looks okay, I'm going to be able to just click on that generate new presentation. And again, I don't have to click back into my web browser, into Copilot to do all that. I'm doing all this within Word and then within PowerPoint as well. Once it's all done, I'm going to have a complete, ready to present presentation with all the details of what was in that proposal that Copilot helped me draft up, right? Even in the slide details, I'm getting, usable information and talking points from Copilot, all based off of that same Word document proposal,
So
right?
slick.
It's pretty slick, yeah. And even it can do things like image generation. I know that, the AI generated images have been going around lately, but you're able to do that in Copilot as well for PowerPoint, right? If I want to change the image on this slide, I can just ask Copilot to create a new image. I want to make something a little bit more futuristic, a little bit more appealing, to an end user. So the designer tab is going to come up. You can see Copilot kind of thinking, working out the kinks of those images, and then it's going to give you other presentation or other suggestion options over here. But in that designer tab, when it finishes loading, we're going to have our images ready to just cut and copy into the PowerPoint presentation itself, right? And it's all pretty seamless. It's all pretty flawless. I don't have to go search on Google for images that might be relevant to me anymore because Copilot's going to be able to generate those. Right. Even if I want to add another slide, for example, once the presentation is already created in my Copilot window, I can ask it to do that. Right. Let's say I want to do a SWOT analysis of who our competitors could be for this solar stroller idea. Again, I don't have to give Copilot a ton of details on it, but it's going to be able to generate something that I can build and that I can really work off of. Right. So I found that there's a lot of use in Copilot and, recording these Teams meetings and going through my email inboxes, from top to bottom, just being able to do that, building out proposals, turning, you know, Word document proposals into presentation ready PowerPoint slides, all those sorts of great things, right? So overall, what I've really found is that AI is not necessarily a separate tool to learn when it comes to Copilot and Microsoft's kind of suite of products here, right? I don't have to go take a course on how to use Copilot and, how to integrate Copilot with Word. I don't have to look up how to integrate Copilot with Outlook and Teams because that comes right out the box, right? It's not necessarily a separate tool that I have to use. I don't necessarily need perfect data. Like in the example of the proposal, I didn't need to have every single thing worked out because I'm able to kind of give Copilot a couple talking points and it can go off of that, right? And even if I don't have all the details with me that I need, right at this minute, Copilot's going to be able to give me something that I can work off of, right? And that value really compounds through everyday use. It's all of these little, 15-minute saving tasks, 5-minute saving tasks, all these little things really add up over time and turn into something, completely functional and usable. Right, so Tara, I'll
Yeah,
give it back to you just for this last bit over here.
absolutely. Yeah, and I think this is a point where some people kind of get a little bit overwhelmed and it's like, okay, this looks useful, but I don't necessarily want to roll it out to our entire organization yet. And so Microsoft actually introduced Copilot Business for teams under 300 employees. And that basically gives teams a chance to kind of start small, like picking people maybe who are very email heavy roles or AI curious. And then the rest of the team can start learning from those workflows and what works and what doesn't work before expanding. And again, there's no disparate systems. This is all very user friendly because it's the same interface that anyone who has been using Microsoft 365 is already doing. So it's nothing too scary. But there is a broader Copilot add-on when teams are ready to go further. And BCS, we're actually doing a limited time intro pricing and an extra month free when you purchase annually. So we challenge you to think of this as an experiment, not a commitment. And we are very happy to help you sanity check if it fits for your organization and at what scale. So let's jump to the question and answer section here.
Yeah, perfect. I see somebody had asked, if Copilot is something individuals can use, or whether IT has to be involved. I know it can be kind of confusing because you hear all these buzzwords about AI and, integration, all that sort of stuff. But really, to answer that question, it's definitely something that people can use on an individual level, right? Where Copilot
Mhm.
is available to you, on your applications. They do have a standalone app if you want to just ask it more general, broad questions about the organization or, whatever you need. It's got those. So you're going to be able to do things like draft email responses. You're going to be able to do things like use Copilot to sort through your Teams chats or look through your meeting recordings without, the need of, an IT infrastructure behind that, And sometimes, clients do find that they want to limit access to Copilot in certain ways. Maybe you wanted to, have access to your Teams, not your Excel, for example, or not your Outlook, or, whatever the other application is, or you want to limit the records that Copilot can access. That's kind of when your IT team comes into the mix, is they can help restrict that access. They can help set up Copilot in a more boxed in way if that's, what you would desire. But when you're using it on a day-to-day basis, it's something that you can use completely standalone. So that's a good question.
We had another one come through that says, can I use Copilot with Microsoft Excel?
Yes, that's a great question as well. And yep, you're going to be able to use Copilot with Excel. I don't have like a slide for it up here right now, but I've used Copilot personally in analyzing Excel sheets. Sometimes instead of building out pivot tables, I can just ask Copilot certain questions about the data, and it's able to give me that. So yeah, Copilot with Excel is also, pretty handy tool.
You don't have to memorize all of the formulas anymore
There
and
you
where
go.
to go to do it.
Or if you need formulas written, Copilot can help you write
Right?
those
Yeah,
formulas too, right?
exactly.
It's pretty nice, pretty handy.
Would it generate VBA script? Was the follow-up to that.
Sure. Yes, I believe that Copilot does have the ability to generate the VBA script if you need. You might have to give it a little bit more guidance on, the parameters, what specifically you want. But yeah, my understanding is that Copilot will be able to help you do that as well.
Seeing if there are any other questions that popped up. Otherwise, one of the things that Joel and I were talking about yesterday is how cool that you can really, it starts learning your tone. So when you can set those tonalities, but it also starts learning from you as well. So you can start getting more like, this sounds like me when I'm sending an email. And I
Yeah,
love
yeah.
the customization.
That's one of the handy things. You can ask it to, have a preset tones, you can ask it to, save certain settings of how you want it to talk and all that great stuff.
Oh, good. Thank you for posting that, Emily. Fantastic. Any other questions? Any other things that you wanted to mention, Joel?
Nothing too much on my end. I've just had a good time, playing with it. One thing I do like is that Microsoft is constantly building out updates as well for Copilot. So right now they're constantly improving the integration between Copilot, Teams, Outlook, Excel, PowerPoint, just to make things a lot easier for, whoever the end user is. And they're always adding features as well. So that's another thing to, keep in mind is that Microsoft is always building out Copilot. This is something they're really heavily working into. So,
Mhm.
there's going to be even more features than what we showed here in future months.
Absolutely. I went to the Twin Cities Dynamics user group last night, and they were someone from Microsoft was talking about how much they're constantly iterating and making it better and more intuitive overall. So, and doing things that I think are just kind of mind blowing, that you'd never think that an AI bot or agent could do. So,
Absolutely.
well, fantastic. Well, this was great. And thank you so much for going through the demos, Joel.
Yeah, thank you for having me on.
And we will be posting the recording. So um, anyone who missed the beginning, we'll have that ready for you. And thank you. Have a wonderful afternoon, or I guess morning if you're still in Pacific time.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.